Hey, I get it, you're staring at a list of professional-grade DSLRs and wondering if you're about to drop a serious chunk of cash on a camera that might end up gathering dust. You don't want to waste money on the wrong tool, especially when most of us buy gear hoping it will finally unlock the next level of photography or videography. The Nikon D4 is one of those legacy bodies that keeps popping up in secondhand markets, and the question is, does it actually deliver enough for today's workflow, or is it a relic better left on the shelf? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the scene. The D4 is a full-frame DSLR that launched back in 2009, but its 16.2 megapixel CMOS sensor and the ability to shoot 10 to 11 frames per second still hold relevance for certain niches. If you're a sports photographer who still relies on a 20-plus megapixel sensor for the ultimate ISO performance, or a documentary filmmaker who values the robust Nikon ecosystem, the D4 can be a surprisingly practical workhorse. For anyone who's newer to interchangeable lens cameras and expects cutting-edge megapixel counts or instant 4K video, though, the D4 specs will feel dated. Who should really consider this camera? Imagine you're a freelance photojournalist covering fast-moving events, think football matches, concerts, or breaking news. The D4's continuous shooting speed of up to 150 frames in a single burst means you can capture that decisive split second without the lag that older bodies suffer. Moreover, the full-frame sensor, despite its modest 16 megapixel count, still offers excellent low-light performance because each pixel is relatively large. In practice, that translates to cleaner images when you're shooting under stadium lights or in the dim corridors of a newsroom. If you already own a set of Nikon mount lenses, the D4 lets you squeeze every ounce of performance from those glass pieces without needing a brand new mirrorless adapter. Another real-world use case is low-budget video production. The D4 can record full 1080p HD video and even output a live view feed to an external monitor, which is handy when you're shooting a multi-camera interview or a live-streamed event. The ability to capture uncompressed video through the HDMI output means you can bypass the camera's internal compression if you're feeding it into a capture card for higher quality post-production. For a small production crew that can't afford a cinema-grade camera, this can stretch your budget significantly. But there are also clear reasons to walk away. If you're a hobbyist who primarily shoots stills for Instagram or family events, the D4's high-speed shooting and professional video features are overkill. Its 16 megapixel resolution limits the amount of cropping you can do compared to modern 30-plus megapixel models, and you'll notice that when you try to print large format images. Also, the lack of built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth means you'll have to shuttle files manually, no quick smartphone transfers or remote tethering. For someone who values in-camera connectivity and instant sharing, that's a real inconvenience. Let's talk about trade-offs you'll feel after the purchase. One of the biggest hidden costs is the battery life. The D4 uses the older ENEL4 battery, which, while solid, doesn't match the endurance of newer models that can comfortably run a full day on a single charge. In the field, you'll likely need a spare battery or an external power solution, especially if you're shooting long bursts or recording video. That's an extra expense you might not have factored in. The viewfinder is another point worth mentioning. It's a bright, 100% coverage optical viewfinder that still feels satisfying to look through, especially for those who love that real camera experience. However, because it's an older generation, the refresh rate isn't as rapid as the electronic viewfinders on mirrorless bodies. When you're tracking fast subjects, you might notice a slight lag that can make focusing a touch less precise. It's not a deal breaker for most, but it does add a learning curve if you're coming from a mirrorless background. Now, regarding durability. The D4's magnesium alloy chassis is famously rugged, and it's rated for thousands of shutter actuations. If you're a field photographer who subjects gear to rain, dust, and occasional drops, that build quality pays off. You'll find the camera still functional after years of hard use, a real advantage over many entry-level DSLRs that warn you to handle with care. The downside is the weight. The body alone tips the scales at about 1.2 kilograms, which can be a strain on long shooting days. Pair that with a heavy lens, and you're looking at a serious workout for your neck and shoulders. Performance-wise, the D4's low-light capabilities are still respectable. Many reviewers from its era noted that the sensor's high dynamic range let you recover shadow detail without excessive noise. In a practical sense, this means you can shoot indoor events with just a single flash or even rely on ambient lighting, and still get usable images. However, newer full-frame models now push ISO performance even further, so if you're routinely shooting at ISO 6400 or higher,